Also today, Ukraine has strongly criticised Mongolia for failing to arrest Vladimir Putin when he touched down in Ulaanbaatar. The Russian president faces an international warrant for alleged war crimes linked to the invasion of Ukraine. Mongolia, as a member of the International Criminal Court, is on paper obliged to detain Putin. Instead, he was welcomed with a red carpet and an honour guard. Well, to talk about his trip, I'm pleased now to speak to Nick Holdsworth. He's our former correspondent in Moscow. He joins us this afternoon from Berlin. Nick, just tell us, first of all, why Putin is making this trip to Mongolia.
Putin's demonstrating that he's still a force on the international stage. He has limited options of places to visit. He's been to China recently, North Korea, Vietnam and Kazakhstan. Now, they're not members of the ICC, so they're not bound to arrest him. Last year, he didn't go to South Africa, which is a member of the ICC. It was an international conference he attended in a video capacity. Today's visit to Mongolia is really about demonstrating that Russia and Putin are still able to function internationally, and it's particularly important that that attack, as Gulliver was just talking about, from Kyiv, has occurred today whilst he's being welcomed by the president of Mongolia, which is this small country wedged between Russia and China, only a population of 3.4 million people. So it's not really a big deal, but this is about both sticking his thumb to his nose, as it were, to the international community, and also demonstrating to a domestic audience that he's still a player on the world stage. Well, it must be said that he's very carefully avoided going to Kursk, where part of that territory in Western Russia is under Ukrainian occupation as we speak. From what I understand, he hasn't gone down to that area in case local people criticize him and his armed forces for not resisting the Ukrainian attack. So this is really all about the optics, and it is Putin yet again saying to the West, I'm still here, I'm somebody to be reckoned with.
All right, so that is Putin's rationale today. What about the Mongolian government? Why are we seeing Ulaanbaatar rolling out the red carpet, quite literally, for Putin today, instead of detaining him?
It would be extremely difficult for Mongolia to detain President Putin. In fact, the established precedent is that you don't actually detain international leaders when they arrive in your territory. It would equally be difficult for Mongolia to refuse the state visit. Mongolia and Russia have a lot of economic connections. There are discussions today about a new power project. There are discussions about extending the railway service between Russia and Mongolia, and about the supply of aviation fuel, which Mongolia is dependent upon Russia for. There were also supposed to be discussions about a 2,500 kilometre gas pipeline between Russia and China, Power of Siberia 2. Last month, the Mongolian parliament voted not to include any funding for that in its next 4-year plan, which suggests that that project may be held up. Also, the Chinese are holding out for a better deal from the Russians on supply of gas. This is gas that used to be sold to Europe that the Russians now want to divert to new markets in China. So a lot of economic connections. Mongolia is a landlocked country, although it has international relations built up over the last 20 to 30 years with the US and Japan, for example. It is stuck there geographically between Russia and China. It needs to be very careful about how it operates. And had Mongolia moved against Putin, who knows what could have happened. One of the things that President Putin and his opposite number in Mongolia today are celebrating is the 85th anniversary of a joint Mongolian-Russian victory against the Japanese in 1939 on the eve of World War II, when the Japanese army occupied parts of Mongolia. So they've got a long history, and it was always unlikely that Mongolia would exercise this warrant from the ICC, and indeed the ICC has no mechanism for enforcing its members to act on international warrants.
Nick Holdsworth for us there. Thanks very much indeed.